From home kitchens and farms to small restaurants and markets, our first guest traveled all over Italy to find fresh takes on classic recipes. And now his favorites can be found in a new cookbook. We welcome back the author of Milk Street, Backroads Italy, J.M. Hirsch. It's so great to see you.
Thank you for having me back.
This is a really special book.
It really is. We've done a lot of books at Milk Street. This is by far my favorite because not only of the recipes are amazing, of course, but we tell the stories of the people and the places behind the recipes, and that context, it's so powerful. Look, we romanticize Italy all the time, and I gotta say, it's true. It's worth every bit of it, and this book really captures that, and it brings that to life.
And the food and the recipes are still kind of the stars, but the cast of characters, all the people that you get to meet along the way are pretty incredible.
I mean, it amazes me how welcoming people are. Oftentimes, I mean, this sounds silly, but it's true. We will pull up into a small town in the middle of nowhere, Italy, knock on a door, go into a butcher shop, go into a cheese shop, and say, hey, who in town makes a great whatever? And they'll say, well, my grandmother does. Can we cook with her? Sure.
Yes.
And within an hour, we're in somebody's house and they're sharing their traditions, their food with us, they're teaching us, and that's how this book came together, and that's what makes it so amazing to me.
It's true. People do love to brag about the people that they love, right? We're kind of modest with ourselves, but if you've got, hey, my auntie has the best recipe for so-and-so, and let me tell you all about it.
Exactly.
That's kind of the magic.
It really is. And it gave us the opportunity to find recipes that you wouldn't find normally, because again, if somebody's grandmother in a small little town in the middle of nowhere is making something that her grandmother used to make, we're getting a sense of something different, something that you're not going to find on the menus in Rome or Naples, and that's what makes this book so special.
I want to ask you about a couple of recipes that maybe are different from the Americanized versions that we might know. Something like an Italian wedding soup. That was a whole story in itself.
It really was. And this is what we love to do. We go to Italy, actually we go all over the world with the same mission, but in particular with Italy, because Americans know Italian food so well. We go there looking for either things we've never heard of or things that we've heard of and we think we know, but they do different.
Right.
And Italian wedding soup is a great example. So in Italy, there are no meatballs involved.
Okay.
In the United States, in Italian-American cooking, which I should say is phenomenal.
Of course.
But Italian-American is different than Italian cooking.
It is so different, yeah.
And in Italy, it could be any variety of meats and a ton of greens, often foraged wild greens.
Oh, wow.
And it's this rich, meaty, brothy, herbal soup that is so delicious. Now, conventional wisdom, of course, is that the name comes from the marriage of meat and greens, so Italian wedding soup. But in actuality, they really do serve it at weddings in Italy.
Sure.
And so it's just a wonderful dish.
It's all true.
Yes.
Well, and I like how you have kind of differentiating between a dried pasta versus a fresh pasta. You've got a recipe to make your own, really the old-fashioned way, and how those matter in the recipe too. And it might just be kind of family tradition that dictates what you choose.
That's true. Yeah, oftentimes that's true. And of course, there's a lot of reasoning behind a lot of pasta choices. Shapes matter because some shapes do well with certain sauces. It catches the bits of ragu or whatever. But at the end of the day, this is what I always say. Italian grandmothers do not fuss.
No.
They do not sweat the details, and they absolutely do not measure. They're going to do whatever they can do, whatever they have to do, whatever they want to do, and it's going to be delicious. And that was one of the most important lessons I learned in Italy. Just cook it, it will be delicious.
There's a very special family. Is it 5 sisters that run this restaurant?
The Backroads sisters.
How cool is that?
I met them on one of my first trips to Italy for Milk Street. And it's 5 sisters, their parents and grandparents, and they run this little restaurant in Naples. It's down a back alley. You wouldn't find it unless you were really looking for it. And it's the sort of place that we would call in the United States a joint. Just kind of a place that's just kind of off the beaten path. The menu is handwritten and photocopied every day. And you walk in, you're greeted like family. It's something out of Central Casting, it really is.
Totally.
And it is wonderful. The food is amazing. One of the sisters is a trained opera singer.
Oh my gosh.
And she often just kind of belts it out in the dining room.
Why not?
And it's such a romantic place. I love it. The food is phenomenal. I've learned so many recipes from these sisters.
Yeah.
They're very tolerant of me. They tolerate my stupid questions. They're very good about that. There is a certain look that they all give each other and me when I ask a stupid question. Because what the questions that I'm oblivious to, of course, are obvious to them.
Of course.
But they're so wonderful and welcoming.
Well, and they can feel your enthusiasm that you're curious and you want to know their way of doing it because you don't know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Are there other things that were so surprising to you, or maybe favorite recipes that you brought back that were new along this journey?
Yeah, I keep going back to Naples because I love Naples. And there was a recipe that I found, and it's called zuppa forte, which translates literally as strong soup.
Okay.
Which doesn't really give you much information. But I was walking past a butcher shop in Naples, and they had this big tub of what looked like tomato paste.
Okay.
And I went in, and we asked about it, and he said, zuppa forte. Well, of course it's zuppa forte. Of course.
Okay.
Idiot. But it turns out it's this very, very old school Neapolitan dish that is a super concentrated, essentially a ragu. There's a lot of meat in it, a lot of tomato, and it's cooked down until it's literally the consistency of tomato paste.
Wow.
But it's very old school. It's not on any restaurant menus anymore.
Okay.
And it has a secret ingredient, which is fermented chili paste, which is a
interesting.
local specialty that you don't often see. It took me a week of going from one person to another, to one butcher shop, to another, asking so many people until I finally found an 85-year-old woman on the wrong side of the train tracks, quite literally, who has this tiny little shop that sells cat food, pasta, and 5 tables where she cooks.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's this crazy, and there's wine spigots on the wall. 10 a.m., little old men come in, they bring their glasses from home, they go up to the spigot, they fill it with wine.
Sounds like my kind of place.
Exactly, and then they trot off down the street. But she was willing to teach me how to make zuppa forte, and it was phenomenal.
That's amazing. And that's an experience you just can't buy. And how wonderful that you got to experience that and then put it all in this book so we can have a piece of it at our homes too.
Absolutely.
This is so fun. We're going to chat more. You're not going anywhere. Thank you so much. Okay, JM has a book event tonight at 7 at Powell's Books at Cedar Hills Crossing in Beaverton. We'll have more information on our website at katu.com. The book again is Milk Street, Backroads Italy by JM Hirsch, and we'll have more information on our website at katu.com. And later in the show, JM is sharing one of the dishes from the book, so do not go away. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live.